We are continuing to talk about banned modern cards. How powerful are they? We're going to go on with Mystic Sanctuary, the island land. You could actually fetch this thing out with like Flooded Strand, Polluted Delta, the Scalding Tarn. Mystic Sanctuary enters the battlefield tapped unless you control 3 or more islands. When Mystic Sanctuary enters the battlefield untapped, you may put target instant or sorcery card from your graveyard on top of your library. I have to admit that when this card was revealed, I grossly underappreciated it. There's a lot of reasons why I don't even care all that much about this card. It only affects you by like what, turn 5? Turn 1, do nothing. Turn 2, do nothing. Turn 3, do nothing. Turn 4. Okay, Mystic Sanctuary enters the battlefield enters the battlefield untapped. You get to put the card on top of your library, but you only have access to that card by turn 5. Is that really a big deal? Is that so powerful? And not only that, it comes from the graveyard, right? So we have plenty of graveyard interaction. But it was very difficult for most decks to actually deal with. And when I look at this card in retrospect, it was like the blue Luris. It was the blue Luris, wasn't it? Where it's not so important in the early game, but in the late game, it becomes very good value. Now, the typical cards that they wanted to put on... What were the typical things that they got with Mystic Sanctuary? They got a lot of things. They got, what's it called? First off, the big one, Cryptic Command. They called it the Cryptic Lock, which is not entirely true. The Cryptic Lock was really hard to pull off. I don't want that. I want the real Cryptic Command. There we go. There's the Cryptic Command. Choose 2. And the 2 that they would choose... Well, whatever. They could choose a lot of things. Counter target spell. Return target permanent to its owner's hand. You know what permanent they put back into their hand? They put the Mystic Sanctuary back in their hand so that they could replay it and put the Cryptic Command back on top of their deck. Or tap all creatures your opponents control, which I felt that a lot. That happened tons. Or draw a card. So the deal is you tap all stuff your opponents control, or counter it, but then you bounce the Mystic Sanctuary back to your hand, and then if you have something to draw cards, back in the day, Uro was legal. Uro, Titan of Nature's Wrath. Back then we had Uro, we had, what's it called? Also Jace the Mind Sculptor. That does it too. Brainstorm, and then you just basically guaranteed to get the card over and over again. Witherfang asks, was there also Deprive, which was the combo I played? No, that was just a rubbish. You could do that in theory, but not in Modern. That's more of a, it's more of a pauper thing than anything else, but that does work. So there was Deprive. Maybe some, I think for sure people tried it. It was a counterspell, blue, as an additional cost to cast Deprive, return a land you control to its owner's hand, counter target spell. But I don't think this was a very, very particularly popular way of abusing Mystic Sanctuary. Now, another way people like to abuse Mystic Sanctuary, and the one I dreaded the most, was putting like Supreme Verdict on top of their deck. That was a scary one. Not gonna lie. So like any fetch land was potentially another Supreme Verdict. Next turn, sure, but still it was coming. Time Warp, oh yes, also the Time Warp was also one. Time Warp from the what's it called? The Taking Turns decks. Although during the Mystic Sanctuary era, I think this was like the least of our worries at the time. Some people saying I'm glowing. Where is it? You're glowing today. I got new lights. I have new lighting. I accidentally bought 2 of them too, which I guess was a benefit to me. Deprive is a great card with Tamishi Reality Architect. That's also a great card with, what's it called? The Mystic Sanctuary. So it's only a late game type of card, but it gives you that sort of like inevitability that, you know, we hated Luris for. And the real pain, you know what it looks like? You know how we hate how cheaters will search the library for like any card that they want and then put it on top of their library? That's basically what Mystic Sanctuary does, except you cannot search your library, you got to search your graveyard, but it puts anything that they want on top of your library. All right, now we've got an amazing card here. This is a hell of a card. Oko, Thief of Crowns. +2, create a food token. Which, okay, maybe we should start this off. Almost nobody thought that this was going to be outright busted. There was a good amount of complaining that this card was like a 3-mana planeswalker. They didn't like 3-mana planeswalkers. Stop the 3-mana planeswalkers. But almost nobody actually thought that this was broken. At least maybe for me, I thought it was broken because I knew I could make really good use out of this in Simic Merfolk at the time that Simic Merfolk was the most playable version of the deck. And for a blue, green, and 1 generic, you had a 4 loyalty planeswalker that went straight to 6. You created these food tokens, which, you know, you can sack it and gain 3 life. Not irrelevant, especially against burn decks. But what really sold it was this +1. Target artifact or creature loses all abilities and becomes a green elk creature with base power and toughness 3/3. The most important thing is I could elk any creature that I want. I could elk Death Shadows. I could elk Ensnaring Bridges, which was important because I always had some stupid card in my sideboard, like Echoing Truth or something, to deal with Ensnaring Bridge. And now this could be a way of dealing with Ensnaring Bridge, but also dealing with any other artifact and any other creature that exists in Modern, and creates an army by itself. It's a 1-card win condition. Make food, make elk. Make food, make elk. And no one appreciated this damn thing. Very few people. I could say easily Sam Black also was on the Oak of Thief of Crowns bandwagon. And Sam went way further than me. Sam said like this was just the outright most powerful planeswalker ever printed. I did not say that. Yeah, could Oko your Time Vault? Probably relevant in Vintage. Apparently Oko has won a Vintage championship by turning a Black Lotus into an elk and then attacking for victory. I remember how we thought the +1 was only temporary at first and it was still great. Yes, I misread this card when spoiling it. I thought, like, I would just assume an ability like this would be until end of turn. Why would it be for forever? That is beyond bonkers nuts. And yeah, I think +1 until end of turn would be good enough. So, to be fair, the Merfolk community was the first to really see the potential in this guy. I knew this was going to be a 4 of. And unfortunately, I also knew it was going to get banned when the time was up for it. Oko was a mistake. You know, so the mistake was with this card, and it's like probably one of the most, you want to know how powerful this card is? It's one of the most powerful on the list. It's maybe the most powerful card on the list. It's such a warping card. Like, it's not fast mana, but is like one of the best just cards to win the game, period. And between like Pioneer, Modern, Legacy, Historic, Explorer, who knows? Probably is going to be fine in Commander for Eternity. And also probably Vintage. I don't really see them banning this card anytime soon. It's called Broco for a reason. I'm so surprised people didn't think this was broken at first. That +1 is just absurd, especially since you can repeat it. So it was a little deceptive, and I can explain why. The first thing is that food tokens don't look that valuable. Sure, you get a food token, but you have to pay to sack it, and do you really have the time for that? Maybe not. And the +1, even if you deal with their creature, you don't remove it from the battlefield. So it's still there. And it's still attacking you. And there's a lot of other effects in Magic that are similar to that, like turn the creature into a 3/3. Like Pongify, for example, or Rapid Hybridization. So you take something like Pongify. Pongify, not super amazing. Like, it's good in some situations, but you still give your opponent a 3/3 ape. And before I explain exactly why this card was so broken, so powerful, you know what we got to do, people. We got to get to the sponsors. FusionGamingOnline.com, my one-stop shop to buy all my paper Magic cards. I'm already assembling the Pauper deck. I got the Mutagenic Growths, I got the Fairy Miscreants, I got the Blue Elemental Blasts. You want to pre-order boosters and boxes? You can get Dominaria United at FusionGamingOnline.com. Don't forget to use coupon code Nikachu, however, at checkout for a 5% off all your purchases, and it supports the channel. So when you support Fusion, you support Nikachu. We're also going to thank Mana Traders, the premier place for renting Magic cards online, and your ability to play any deck, any format, any time that you want. You can support the channel using my Mana Traders link in the description below, or use new coupon code. Oh, I got a new coupon code here. Bear with me for a second. Gotta change this. Where is it? Here it is. Boom. B2Q. That sort of rolls off my tongue. Nikachu _ B2Q for 10% off your first 2 months. Alright, now back to the powerful cards. So Oko, Thief of Crowns, I think the key thing that you got to understand that made this outrageously powerful is that was loyalty. If the loyalty abilities were just switched around in one way or another, this card would have been completely fair. For example, if the food token ability, first off, going to 6 loyalty is nasty, and especially since you're creating an army of 3/3s for your opponent, then it's not going to really kill Oko. Not to mention you can create your own Elks out of the food tokens and just block whatever the hell that they put in play. And remember, it does neutralize any creature at any mana cost. So if you spent 5 mana for an 8/8 creature, no, it's a 3/3. If you've got a Death Shadow, that's a 12/12. No, it's a 3/3 creature, so... Babe, you okay? You've barely touched your food tokens. With treasure, food, clues, and blood tokens being so prevalent, you should test out Viridian Revel in Commander. I'll average 12 draws per game. Sounds a bit janky to me. Good morning, Soraka. Start my new job in 40 minutes. Congratulations. Don't get them catching you watching the stream. So the main problem for Oko Thief of Crowns was simply how they distributed the loyalty abilities and the loyalty itself. If Oko started at 2, maybe it would have been fine. If it starts at 2, goes up to 4, it's killable. But when it like starts at 6 and then goes to 8, it's like just impossible to kill this damn thing. And yes, maybe you could just expel all your resources. You go all in with everything and kill off one Oko at the expense of everything that you had. If they slam a second Oko, it's GG. It's always GG when the second Oko comes down. It was just way too difficult. Also, mind you, the Oko mirror was like really skill intensive, but it was really annoying. Didn't really like that mind battle so much. Oh yeah, by the way, it has one extra ability, which wasn't used that much, but still was used a little bit. -5, exchange control of target artifact or creature you control and target creature an opponent controls with power 3 or less. Actually, I wouldn't mind being married to Oko. Free elk meat every day. Free elk meat. Okay, let's move on. But this is easily, probably one of the most powerful, top 5 most powerful cards on this list. If there are powerful cards in Modern, it was definitely one. Oko Thief of Crowns. And by the way, it was actually played in, like, everything. So that's something that I forgot to mention. If you played green, you splashed blue for this. If you played blue, you splashed green for this. Every deck in Modern played Oko Thief of Crowns. Even Infect! I think the only deck that didn't play it was M. Hayashi's, like, Abosh Burn. That's the only deck. Or, like, Abosh Red. Don't really want to call it a burn deck, but, you know. Every deck except that one. M. Hayashi, the only one fighting up against Oko. Successfully. Once upon a time, there was a card that could be cast for 0 mana at the beginning of the game, which is the most sensitive time of all times in the game. 0 mana spells don't matter so much on turns 7, 8, or 9, but on turns 1 or 2, that's the most relevant it's ever going to be. And this 0 mana spell, yeah, could be cast if If this is the first spell you've cast this game, you may cast it without paying its mana cost. Look at the top 5 cards of your library. You may reveal a creature or land card from among them and put it into your hand. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. Looking for any lands or creatures is super relevant. And also, the fact that it's an instant was also pretty dumb. So this saw a lot of play in... Guess what decks it saw play in? Once Upon a Time was so dumb. Is it Delver lists with 4 of these were even rampant? Was that true? Was that in Legacy? There was no... I didn't see this thing in Modern, that's for sure. It was incredibly prevalent in decks like Tron. Look for, for no mana, go dig for your Urza Towers or whatever. It was very prevalent in Primeval Titan decks. Look for your Titan, look for the correct Karoo land to win the game. And I believe it saw a good chunk of play in Uro decks. We would just play this in decks without green. The problem with this is that it's not free so much that it's easy to include. Well, you gotta play this in a green deck. I mean, you can't put this in any deck. Look at the top 5 cards of the library. Look for a creature or land. And if your deck didn't revolve around creatures or lands, then it wasn't as relevant. I Splash for green for Once Upon a Time is basically a free spell, which also let me play less lands in my deck without losing my land drops. And here is another thing, like, maybe you could balance out the 0 part by making this card insanely expensive. You know, something like Pact of Negation. You look at Pact of Negation. Okay, yeah, sure, you got a 0 mana spell. But the real cost to this card is 5 mana. So if you don't intend on winning the game on the spot right then and there, you gotta pay up the 5 mana. Pay up the 5 mana. But in this case with Once Upon a Time, the the effective alternate casting cost is 2 mana. Like, it doesn't even need to be free, and it's a pretty good card. It's instant. It's Impulse, and Impulse was considered like a really good card in its day. Impulse, instant, blue, 1 generic. Look at the top 4 cards of your library. Put one of them into your hand, the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. And now we got Once Upon a Time. It's just the green Impulse. Sure, it looks at 5 cards deep as well. But only looking for creatures or lands. But it has that ability to be for free instead. They 100% did not playtest Throne of Eldraine. They might have playtested it, and it was just like... It was so powerful. It was... They just thought it would all balance out. In some ways it does, but in a lot of ways it doesn't. Reese says, yeah, I think that's what sets it apart. Most get something for free at game start. Cards are pretty bad draws in mid to late game. Once Upon a Time was pretty relevant throughout. It was good no matter what. It's pretty cheap at 2 mana. But yeah, it was super free in the beginning. Well, it doesn't get any more free than 0 mana in my opinion. But it was also still relevant even if it wasn't free. I'd like to see a 4-color Hive Mind deck using the Pax spells to kill your opponent. Well, that was the OG Amulet list. They just evolved to get rid of it. I like to imagine the playtesters were like, nah, this is good. This is good. Nothing more to look into. Low-key super happy that Impulse is Pioneer legal now. Oh, actual Impulse? Hold on, did they reprint Impulse? Oh, I'll be damned! Coming out. Yeah, Dominaria United. And gonna be legal in Modern, too. I don't think that's a Modern legal card yet. So Once Upon a Time, essentially, the power of this card is it smoothed out your hand big time. Smooth out the hand big time. It, like, what's it called? Yeah, it just got the lands that you needed. It got the creatures that you needed. 0 mana Impulse. Like, hey, we had cards like Ponder. We have cards like Ponder and Preordain on this ban list. And they thought that that was ban worthy. And that costs 1 mana. And I actually think 1 mana is very fair for a cantrip. I think 0 mana is not very fair whatsoever. Well, I know I'll be using Impulse now. Alright, what's the next card on this? Oh, speaking of Ponder, it's actually the next card that's on our list. Let's get one that's not so blurry. There we go, this one. Pay a blue, look at the top 3 cards of your library, then put them back in any order. You may shuffle your library, draw a card. I am of the opinion that this is not very powerful. This is not that broken. I think we actually have a lot of cantrips on that are modern legal. So Ponder is banned basically because of Storm. That's basically what they did. Like, okay, Storm is too strong. We got to chop its legs off by taking away its cantrips. Ponder is orbs. Yeah, look at all those orbs over there. This was brought to you by the unbanned Ponder gang. Jacob says, I think Ponder is okay. I actually think Ponder is super okay. Some people think I'm smoking crack, that Murktide somehow magically will become like tier 0, as if it's not already tier 0 as it is. But I don't think it's going to improve. It would improve it, obviously, but I don't think it would improve it by the magnitude that people think it will. I think there's a lot of combo decks that could use Ponder that are like, combo decks don't really even exist right now. There's just too many hate cards that they printed over the years, like, you know, Damping Sphere, for example. Damping Sphere. What other anti-combo cards? Like, what are the anti-storm cards that they've printed? They printed Damping Sphere. They printed Weather the Storm. Although it's not the greatest card. They printed Fluster Storm, which is better. They printed, I don't know, they've really nailed down Storm to a point where Storm doesn't exist anymore. They put down enough hammers to seal the casket of the Storm players. So I don't think these cards are as broken. I really don't even care about them. I think spending 1 mana, especially in the metagame as of today, is super, how do I put it? It's fair. It's, in some ways, I want to say it's clunky. I want to say cards like this are clunky. Why play Ponder when you can just play random burn spells and removal spells in a Dragon Rage Chandler list and just dig for the cards that you want anyway? I think you'd actually are better off probably playing just regular spells and, you know, sift through your deck through Dragon Rage Chandler or, what's the new bird creature? The bird creature, Deafening Silence. Yeah, that's another one. Got Deafening Silence here. So no matter what, I think the point is, if you unban Ponder, Storm is not going to get out of control. I also think if you unban Ponder, the combo decks in general are not going to get out of control. There are so many answers. Yeah, Ledger Shredder. I think Ledger Shredder is like the modern day Ponder. Ponder is the 3rd best blue cantrip ever printed. But I think modern is clunky enough that Ponder is okay. A lot of people say I'm crazy. I don't think this is that powerful of a card. It's just a dirtling card. Yeah, 1 mana overcosted now. Yeah, in a world where... Is Ponder better than Brainstorm? Absolutely not. Brainstorm can replace lands in your hand with gas. I would say Brainstorm is too good for Modern, but Ponder is good, but do not care about it. Yeah, we've got to consider. We have a lot of cantrips. Is Ponder better than them all? Yes. Will it completely blow open the format? I think not. I think not. All right. As we were talking about Ponder, this next one is not going to be all that much different. We have Preordain. So if I think Ponder is not super powerful, then Preordain is the next on this. It's a blue, scry 2, then draw a card. You don't even go that deep here. These cards look like absolute jokes in the face of, say, like a Dragon Rage Chandler and an Expressive Iteration, where you get to, like, okay, you get to surveil, and then after that you can, like, look at 3 cards and then take 2 of them. Is it better than Gitaxian Probe? Absolutely not. None of these cantrips are better than Gitaxian Probe. Looking at your opponent's hand is super powerful. This is embarrassing. It's Storm Food, but Storm is unplayable at the moment. Yeah, who needs to shuffle when we have fetch lands anyway? Burning Paper Sun says, I love Ponder and Preordain. I think Preordain is safer to start with, and if that turns out to be safe, then we can unban Ponder. I would agree with that. I could get behind that, but I have a feeling though that they're never gonna touch these cards for one reason or another. Preordain is just gonna be on this ban list for eternity. They just don't want to give cantrips to blue. They're just gonna be too concerned that the control decks or the tempo decks are gonna make better use of these cards right now. I've been calling for the unbanning of Ponder and Preordain for years, and there's always some deck people say, like today it's Murktide. Like, yeah, you can't unban these cards because Murktide will then become tier 0. And then before, they said you can't unban these cards because Omnath will be tier 0. And then before, you can't unban it because Uro will be tier 0. Well, I think it would better tell us which cards are broken in blue than not. Like, it would just help accelerate Uro getting banned. You know what I mean? Like, Uro was the real problem, and Uro hung around for, like, about a year? We got to play with Uro for a little over a year, and then it got banned. Come on, let my Esper control deck run free once it rotates out of standard. They don't want Modern looking like any shade of Legacy. These are Modern cards! They're Modern cards. You know, honestly, they used to say something like that about Stoneforge Mystic. They used to say stuff like that about Stoneforge Mystic. Like, you know, they want to protect the identity of Legacy. But really, they're Modern cards. Let Modern use its stuff. Witherfang doesn't trust Ponder, but that's because of my experience in Legacy and Pauper. But I want Delver to be viable in Modern, so you don't have to spend money for Agavans. I don't think Delver will ever be playable in Modern. It's just over. They're realizing that in Legacy right now. Like, Delver just sucks. Modern realized that before anyone else. This card is trash. And it was mostly because they didn't have the cantrips to flip the damn thing. But even by today's standards, it's just unplayable. Dakota's got it right. People are worried Blue is gonna go burr. Shiva Family Gaming. These deck types are tight. What would replace with Ponder and Preordain? That's my point too. If you unban all of them, I bet they'll find room for Ponder. Ponder's a good card. You know, you dig 3, you find a good card, then you can shuffle the bad cards on top of your library away. Preordain, like, maybe the combo decks will play this card because it's better than like Sleight of Hand and like Opt and all those other nonsense cards, so they're gonna see play in the combo decks. But in our traditional deck, I don't think so. Like, I don't see it happening. What does a Legacy deck look like right now, actually, for Blue-Red? Because they're using Expressive Iteration, right? Let's just take a good look at the Legacy formats. Quick look. Okay, what cantrips are you using? Are you using all of them? Brainstorm, Ponder, and Expressive Iteration. Oh, they're squeezing all 12 of them in there. Okay, so something similar is probably going to happen in Modern, but they'd play 4 Preordain, 4 Ponder, and then whatever. Hey, by the way, you all get weak. If you want to play all those cards, you're weaker to Chalice of the Void, by the way. Just, you know, lean into my Chalice a little bit further. Lean into it a little bit further. Dragon Rage Chandler seems to just have taken Delver's slot in almost every format. Yeah, it was a super Delver. I'm embarrassed I didn't notice that power level when it got spoiled. What's so bad about Preordain? It's like Opt, but sorcery speed and 1 more scry. Beats me, Shortnator. You ask Wizards of the Coast. Anyway, but digging 2 is what makes it good. And in theory, it can enable a combo deck. Anyway, I think it's an embarrassing card to have on this list. Not very powerful. Very weak. Okay, here's a debatable one. What do you guys think about Punishing Fire? Should we bring it? We should unban it. We leave it banned. Red 1 generic. Punishing Fire deals 2 damage to target creature or player. But here's the kicker. Whenever an opponent gains life, you can pay a red. If you do, return Punishing Fire from your graveyard to your hand. And then you might think, well, how often is the opponent going to gain life? When is that going to be relevant? What is it? Am I going to be up against Soul Sisters? But you can play What's the Gruul land? It escaped my brain all of a sudden. Grove. Grove of the Burn Willows. Pyre here with the save. Thanks so much, Pyre. I really needed you there. Tap, add a generic mana, or you could add red or green, and then each opponent gains 1 life. So you force them to gain the life so that you can pay the red to get the Punishing Fire back from the graveyard back to your hand. So the argument against this is that this is a very punishing card against like aggro decks, tribal decks. It suppresses, you know, creature-based strategies, which is partially true. It's a good card. It's a good card against them. But I think this has a very similar feel to it as, like, say, Lurrus, but even more so. If this is punishing for creature-based decks, then why do we have this card legal in the format? I've been deeply thinking about this. Wrenn 6 needs to go. Like, I'm always thinking about how I build my deck, and it can never have any 1 toughness creatures because of this stupid card. So Jacob thinks it's too slow for Modern. It is too slow. So the deal is, this is the type of thing, it gives you, it's another one of those inevitability cards. Maybe it should be on the ban list. You know, maybe I never appreciated inevitability enough. It's a card that, you know, just like Lurrus, just like Mystic Sanctuary, it's just something that you get to reuse again and again, eternally, into the far depths of the late game. And, like, even if this is a little bit easier to deal with graveyard hate, because once you, like, exile it, it's gone. It's not coming back. Whereas something like Lurrus, you could exile the graveyard, but the Lurrus is still on the battlefield. You could exile the graveyard, but the Mystic Sanctuary is still on the battlefield. It could get recycled if bounced back to hand, or you just get another Mystic Sanctuary. Punishing Fire is a lot more vulnerable in that respect. Yeah, Fury is pretty brutal too. There's so many. Yeah, poor new Merfolk Lord gets hit by Wrenn. Although it's flash speed, so yeah, we're gonna be okay. I can see this being banned for a reason, but it's not too terrible. It's one of the better ones. I'm gonna say it's pretty powerful. In the past, I'm like, you can unban, like, I would say you could unban it, but I don't know if everyone would be happy about that unban. Not to mention, I don't know if everyone wants to be playing with, like, whoops, the Grove of the Burn Willows. Also, this might just help. What's it called? This might help. I'm trying to think. Maybe, like, let's say you unban this today. Who wants to play it? Does anyone want to play this thing? Does it kill Ledger Shredder? Does it kill a Ragavan? Does it kill, like, Murktide Regent? Like, it has the problem that a lot of the creatures that you want to kill today, they're a little too big. They're a little bit too big right now. Punishing Fire and Grove is one of the fairest value engines in red X decks, in my opinion. Absolutely. And sees, like, very little or no play in Legacy right now, right? Jund will play it. Maybe. Remember, Jund barely exists as it is right now. You know what's funny, though? That Grove in the metagame will just randomly hurt Death Shadow. I was just thinking about that. Grove of the Burn Willows starts to become popular. I never thought about that. Death Shadow started to really rise to the top when Grove of the Burn Willows, like, disappeared from Tron. Tron became like a mono green deck. Interesting. Interesting. The niche things about the metagame. Bad mid-range piles will play this. So Punishing Fire is a good value plan, not the most busted. Maybe I'm underappreciating this because it has a lot of similarities to Lurrus and Mystic Sanctuary, which are banned on this list. Alright, now we're going to see the difference between Pauper and Modern. Rite of Flame. Red, sorcery. Add red to your mana pool. Then add red to your mana pool for each card named Rite of Flame in each graveyard, including your opponent's graveyard. I think this is broken. I think it's broken. It's basically, it's free mana. You spent 1 mana, you got, like... It's a little too free. You spent 1 red, you got 2. And in some cases, you can spend 1 red and you get even more than 2. You can get 3. This is a very, very nasty, nasty card. We do not want people getting so much mana by turn. I think the idea... We don't want to give people the ability to have, like, 3 mana by turn 1, which this card can do. You can go turn 1 Rite of Flame into turn 2 Rite of Flame. And I don't know what they do with it after that. It's also looting fodder. Yeah, probably. 5 mana, 5 red mana total. Remember, you gotta spend mana to get mana. So you can get... So the first Rite of Flame is 2. Then you spend to spend a second one. You get 3, so you get 4 mana on turn 2. Wow, that's disgusting. Yeah, that's no good. We can't let that happen. Simian Spirit Guide as well. It has Simian Spirit Guide vibes to it with how much mana you can get so easily, so quickly. I think 1 mana for rituals is a little too much. Charbelcher, anyone? This would definitely go in. What would this... Good question. Where is this going? I think Storm would die with this card, but I think Charbelcher Oops. Does Oops need this? Can't remember. I don't think so. Storm Legacy. This is not better. It's definitely not better than Dark Ritual. Dark Ritual is just a black, add 3 mana. But definitely this would be a great card for the Charbelcher decks. Who knows? Maybe this would actually put Storm over the top. What could they do with this immediately? They can go... they could Manamorphose. If they had 4 mana on turn 1, they could Manamorphose into, like, Gifts Ungiven and then maybe, I don't know, win the game from there. I believe Storm was so weak today that, and the lack of black ritual spells, I think Tendrils of Agony can be printed into Modern. Oh yeah, that's totally fine. Tendrils is just a win condition. It's no different from Grape Shot. Would any Izzet deck play this? No. I don't think Izzet. Ooh, Red Prison could play this, though. Red Prison could play this. Or maybe not? Current Red Prison deck, they may not, actually, they may not want to play this card. Because it's 1 mana and that gets hit by their own Chalice of the Voids. Sam, I talked about the Fish Lord. If you want to find that, you can go on my Twitter and Facebook. Very recently, I posted a link to that video. Turn 2 Chandra might be nice. What do you guys think? Fluffy Wolf, would you replace all your Chalice of the Voids for Rite of Flame? Because that's what it comes down to. They're a Chalice of the Void deck. And they like playing Chalice on 1. Which is pretty good right now. It's not bad. This is an auto-include in most red decks. It could get Storm ahead, but it would just make all red decks better. No, it won't. Okay, whoa. Hold the fort. Whoa. You think this card would be good in Burn? I don't think this card would be good in Burn. That'd be a complete waste of complete waste of a card. Would this card be good in a Bosch Red? I don't think this card would be good in a Bosch Red. Again, they're not looking to ramp. They're looking to... Every card in their hand will be doing something, either burning or killing. What else? There's a lot of red deck. Like, Delver doesn't play rituals. They would never play this card. They have access to this in Legacy and they don't care. You just turbo out Chalice or Moon. Oh, that is a nice line, actually. Doesn't work against Chalice, it works with Chalice. Yeah, turn 1 Chalice on 1. That's actually pretty sick. Pretty good on the draw. I like that, actually. Okay. And then just loot it away or something later. Well, you could always get turn 2 Moon. They always had rituals to do that anyway. Okay, I'm sold. Rite of Flame being in the main deck for a Mono Red Prison deck would be pretty good. Probably not busted, though. But I think what makes this card busted is going to be in some sort of combo deck like Charbelcher. They will absolutely drool over this card. Turn 1 Blood Moon or Chalice is nice. Yeah, with 2 Rite of Flames, you can go turn 1 Moon. Quite specific, but useful in aggro or prison. I don't see this card being that good in aggro. I just don't see it. I really laughed at all those decks that like played Desperate Ritual. I think it's Desperate Ritual, right? Yeah, Desperate Ritual into like Goblin. What's the 3-mana Goblin? Whenever at combat you get a 1/1 with haste, something like that. Yeah, aggro wants threats on curve, not rituals. But anyway, I laughed at all those Goblin Rabble Master. I think it's such a bad way of getting your game plan on, because if you kill the Goblin Rabble Master, like with a lot of one mana removal, they might get a token, but effectively it's like a 2-for-1. If you Fatal Push it, you like Lightning Bolt it, Unholy Heat it. Anyway, I don't think it's very good. Dash Monkey on turn 1. That's pretty bad. But yeah, I think Rite of Flaming creatures in play, it already exists. It's such a bad plan. It's never going to be good. But Rite of Flame, I do think, is grossly broken. It's too free of mana for the combo deck. So we're going to say no to Rite of Flame. Alright, before we take a second later, we got to look at Second Sunrise. White, 1 generic, instant. Each player returns to play all artifact, creatures, enchantments, and land cards that were put into his or her graveyard from play this turn. Now, this is a broken card. I do think this is a very broken card. Thanks for reminding me, Mystery, but we did get through the sponsors. I actually can't trust you guys. You remind me of sponsors like way too late in the video. So I make sure that we got the music change. I make sure the music changes so it reminds me of the sponsors. So this card was banned for being in eggs. Let's look for. We can look up the Stanislav Sifkid list. The Pro Tour winning list. I look great with these new lights. I think I look great. I look a little bit more shiny than I prefer, but whatever. This deck is not legal to the following reasons. Deck contains banned cards, Gitaxian Probe, and Second Sunrise. This won a Pro Tour, and it took forever. You really needed to have the mental fatuity to play this for hours on end. It's worse than the control deck, because when you combo off, it will take like basically like 35 minutes. Someone gave me a Master Ball. I found a shiny Nikachu. Get out of here. I don't think Sifka lost 2 modern games. I don't think he did either. Because his weakness was counter spells, and there wasn't really a whole lot of counter magic that he was facing at the time. It was mostly Jund. It was the prime era of Jund. And it was funny, like Watanabe in the finals didn't even bother to Thoughtseize Sifka. He Thoughtseized himself, which was really creative. He's like, turn 1 Thoughtseize myself to grow his Tarmogoyf on turn 4. Funny stuff. So, so the whole idea of the deck, like, let's get back to Second Sunrise. Why is this banned? It's banned because this combo deck took too long. So you get out a bunch of these, what we call the eggs. That's why this deck was called eggs. Chromatic Sphere, because you crack them. You crack your eggs for a card. And mana, you continuously crack them. And then once you cracked enough of them, you played Second Sunrise, bring them all back to the battlefield. And you can float a bunch of mana, especially with Lotus Bloom. Once you have Lotus Bloom on the battlefield, you're in good shape. And you could get it. I mean, you could suspend the damn thing, but why suspend it when you can just reshape it into play? Blue, X, as an additional... You don't really have to pay the X. As an additional cost to cast this spell, sack an artifact. Search your library for an artifact card with converted mana cost X or less, put it onto the battlefield, and shuffle your library. And then once you start, like, looping the Lotus Blooms, because you can crack it for mana, Second Sunrise it back onto the battlefield, and it's not going to have suspend counters. You can have a bunch of free floating mana that you can use to crack your spheres and basically do this all over again. How do you loop the Second Sunrise? I don't remember. Or do you not do that? Maybe there's a point where you just draw a bunch of cards. Comes into play, draw a card, sack it, choose a basic land type. Each land you control becomes basic land type. Put up to one target card from your graveyard on the bottom of your library. There we go. You can loop it like this. But you have no way of shuffling your library. Maybe I'm just thinking of the deck wrong. The original version of the deck used cards actually called eggs, like Skycloud Egg. Makes sense to me. Called eggs because a lot of 0 mana spells. There's actually not that many 0 mana spells. It was called Cheerios because there was a lot of 0 mana spells. This is eggs though. There's a lot of 1 mana spells in this one. How does this deck win? Excellent question, Peyton. Excellent question. So you can you win with Pyrite Spellbomb, and then when you got the lock, there's a point where you can draw your deck an infinite number of times. And you can just keep cracking Pyrite Spellbomb over and over and over and over again. I believe you crack it, deal 2 damage, conjures Bauble, put Second Sunrise back on top of your library, Chromatic Sphere, crack it, get your Second Sunrise back, cast Second Sunrise, get everything back, get your Pyrite Spellbomb back to deal damage, get your Conjurer's Bauble to put Second Sunrise back from your graveyard on top of your library, and then you get at least a Chromatic Sphere or Chromatic Star so you can draw the Second Sunrise and do that all over again. It's probably the slowest deck in history, and that's why it got banned. It didn't get banned for power level, although I do think it's a really good card and probably deserves to be banned. But it got banned for being too slow of a deck. I mean, we could even look at... Why don't we go look at the Second Sunrise banned and restricted announcement. Oh, we're going back in time, people. We're going back. Eric Lauer. All right. Way back then, someone else was in charge of the BNR announcements. Wasn't Ian Duke. All right, what's your explanation? Okay, Modern terms have recently been diverse, but no dominant deck. However, large terms had a problem with the eggs deck, causing rounds to take significantly longer. The deck uses Second Sunrise and blah, blah, blah. In a large tournament such as a Grand Prix, when time for a round expires, players are given 5 additional turns to complete their game, and they are untimed. Usually this takes a few minutes to conclude the rest of the games. However, a player playing eggs might have a 15-minute turn during the additional turns, delaying the start of the next round by 10 minutes or more. Beyond the next longest match. Over the course of a day, this can mean an extra hour of waiting for everyone else in the tournament. So it's banned. They banned the thing. And that's how they did it. I don't know where to rate the power level of this card. It's a good card. Like, is it actually broken, though? What do you guys think? Is this broken? Is it busted? Can you shuffle your deck with Ghost Quarter? Oh yeah, you could, I guess. You could do that. The long way. I'm sure when, like, the combo is really going off, you're drawing tons of cards, and it's not really that big of a deal. Jack says the card is terribly bad. It's 3 mana! It's cheap. It's pretty cheap. I think if this card gets on... I mean, of course... Actually, I can't tell. If this card was unbanned, would it bring the deck back? By 2022 standards, this deck would be unplayable, but time reasons. Yeah, you would Ghost Quarter your land, which would net you mana too. Oh yeah, that's neat. Well, it wouldn't net you mana because you have to sack the Ghost Quarter. Second Sunrise, play Ghost Quarter on themselves to put more basic lands into play. Oh, yeah, thin their deck. Thinning the deck is a real thing. Or I guess you don't lose mana. You tap the mana that you're going to blow up. You Ghost Quarter, you blow up the land. The land comes into play untapped. There's a million more counterspells right now. We have Force of Negation. We've got... You know what would be another... maybe it wouldn't be a problem. I was thinking Damping Sphere might be a problem. Maybe it wouldn't. If they made a way to do the combo faster, it would come back. No, it doesn't matter. Like, that's not debatable. Like, on Magic Online, they don't care about time. We're just objectively thinking about it. I think it's a good card. I don't know if it's completely busted or anything, but it's a combo card. They can combo by turn 3, which is more or less an acceptable standard, and maybe not super acceptable. Can they combo by turn 3? Turn 3 is not good. No. You may not combo by turn 3. Break turn 4 rule. Do you think this took longer than Sensei's? Yes, way longer. Top decks could win. Like, your opponent could resign, but with Second Sunrise, there's a chance that someone will, like, fizzle. So they had no incentive to. They didn't have any incentive to abandon the game. All right, moving on. You guys, let me know. Second Sunrise should be banned. Let me know in the comment section below. I mean, banned for power level. Okay, so we're going on to Seething Song. Red 2 generic, add 5 red mana to your mana pool, and it's an instant. I sometimes think about this card. Like, probably I don't want to give combo decks, like, any fuel. 5 red mana is a lot of mana. Like, it's a lot of mana. But it starts at 3 mana. So do I care at that point? Ye Old Storm. Which I think would be dead anyway if you unban Seething Song. So the real question is, can Charbelcher use this card better? Would Charbelcher drool over a card like this? Would it put Charbelcher over the top? Mind you, Charbelcher hardly sees play right now. You can chain this, remember, into like Desperate Ritual into Seething Song. So it's not that hard to get to 5 mana really quickly. It would help Belcher win on turn 2 way more. I don't know if that's something I want to give Belcher. Seething Song is essentially Dark Ritual, but with a starting mana restriction. I guess you could look at it like that. Like Dark Ritual into Dark Ritual, which is 5 mana. So in this case, we need like Desperate Ritual into Seething Song, which also gives you that 5 mana. Not as good without Monkey. Oops All Spells is a great deck idea. They can unban Seething Song and Mox. No, they cannot unban any Mox. They're definitely not going to do that. Oh yeah. Oh, your Monkey. You're not talking about Ragavan. You're talking about Simian Spirit Guide. Yeah, all these cards are harder to use without Simian Spirit Guide. Well, honestly, I don't think in case of Seething Song, this is easy to use. Because we have already like we have 2 rituals that will get you to 3 mana. And then from the 3 mana, you can get to 5 mana with Seething Song. So by turn 2, like, it just gives you more mana than usual. It's probably powerful. Like, it's probably powerful. It might still need to be in the right deck. Baral will abuse this. Honestly, I don't think this is going to help Storm by much. Like, I would be very curious to know what this does to Storm, because Storm has so much hate on it. Storm is... It's like, I want to say Storm isn't coming back. Storm's not coming back. They need some super powerful cards. And I don't, it's not even like Wizards wants to enable Storm in any way. I don't think they want to help Storm, period. Prowess would abuse this? No, it would not. Desperate plus Seething into Belcher as a turn 2 win. That's all. I think that's too many cards. That's a lot of cards. Don't they have something similar? Don't they have that Iron Crag thing? Is it Irene Crag? Okay, how does this work? So for 4 mana, so you can already Ritual Iron Crag feat. So we would just have like another means of getting to Iron Crag feat like mana. Oh, it's not even enough though. You need double. You would need double of this. You need double Seething Song. You need Ritual double Seething Song. I guess it just enables some more turn 2 kills. So it's just more Iron Crag feats in the deck, which they probably would play. But here's another thing. Belcher sees like no play right now. What is Belcher's problem? If you hate Jeskai Ascendancy, you will hate Second Sunrise more. Oh yes. I absolutely hate Jeskai Ascendancy. Pyre says, ritual spam in turn 1 win is one of those silly goldfish discussions that's older than most of your audience. Why is red always doing some type of ritual? Come on. Wait, Eldraine made a Seething Song too? And I thought I was busted already. Just leave the ritual spells on the ban list. It's healthier for Modern in the long time. Well, we're not talking about what we can unban, but we're just trying to gauge the power level of these cards. Okay. Seething Song, we're going to say it's a powerful card in select combo decks. Because if you can win early, that is power. If you can win before your opponent even gets the ability to play a Damping Sphere on the battlefield, when you're on the play, they're like, I have my Damping Sphere in hand, but I was on the draw and only have 1 land in play, and you Seething Songed into victory. Well, that's GG's, I guess. All right. With that, that's Coffee and MTG today. Thank you so much for joining me. We do this, of course, Monday to Friday, 8 o'clock a.m. Central Standard Time. Be part of the conversation. Join us. Thank you very much. And everyone, thank you so much for your super chats. I appreciate it. And everyone who became a member lets me know you love Coffee and MTG. We got to keep doing this every day. But most importantly, thank you guys for showing up every day, because without you, there would be no show. You guys are the show. I've said that so many times. Thank you for becoming part of Coffee and MTG. This is the show where we all come together. So keep brewing up those coffees, and we'll keep brewing up the magic. Take care of yourselves, and I will see you at the next cup.